Hello everyone, welcome to Can We Answer. This is our third video in the video series of Indian polity. We are studying the whole Lakshmikant Indian polity chapter wise. First two videos I have already uploaded on the channel. You can watch the videos. And let's start today's class. And the video is regarding the salient features of Indian Constitution. Right? So first, we need to know what is a constitution, right? So constitution is basically a fundamental law of a land in country which is governed, should have a fundamental law, fundamental principles on which the country has to be governed. So that fundamental law book, rule book, it is called constitution. Constitution may be written or unwritten. For example, written constitution, Indian constitution, and unwritten constitution, British constitution. So there are very different features of Indian constitution. So we will be discussing this in this video. So our constitution is unique in content and spirit. Although it is borrowed, right, from various other constitution, but it is very unique one. And there are a few salient features that are even being borrowed or modified according to the Indian conditions. Okay. So although there are a lot of criticisms for being borrowed, but we have used international best practices and tried to improvise them for our own needs. So what are the salient features? First feature is it is the lengthiest written constitution. So as I have already told you, Indian constitution is a written constitution and it is world's lengthiest constitution because it is, although it is written and lengthiest, it is very comprehensive, elaborate, and detailed document. It has to be. Why Indian constitution is one of the lengthiest one? Because geographical factors. Why? Huge geographical extent, right? Almost 30-degree north-south and 30-degree east-west. So longitudinal and latitudinal variation of Indian landmass is 30-degree both. So it is a huge country. And historical factors, because it is, there used to be small countries, small kingdoms within India. So a lot of other factors, including the partition. So the constitution maker had to be very cautious while making the constitution. So that's why a lot of historical factors, and that's why a lengthy constitution. Then single constitution. So India is a single constitution for both union and all the states. Few countries may have separate central or union constitution, federal, and separate at the state level. But India is this. And one reason is the dominance of legal luminaries in the Constituent Assembly. So most of the Constituent Assembly members were, a lot of them were lawyers, and because they were lawyers, they had better knowledge of the legality of the terms, and so they thought that it should not be a problem at a later stage, and that is why it was a lengthier constitution. They have tried to define each and everything so that it may not be a problem at a later stage. Second is it is drawn from various sources. Okay, so structural part is from Government of India Act 1935. So because the Government of India Act, as we have talked about in the first video, is one of the most elaborated act that came during the British period. Although it did not get implemented fully, but it helped a lot to Indians in framing the constitution. Then the philosophy was mostly the philosophy were taken from the American and Irish constitution. For example, fundamental rights from American and TPSP from Irish constitution. And then the political part, how Indian polity will work, that is the prime minister, the parliamentary system, that came from the British constitution. So these are only a few. You can just read the other sources from where it has been drawn, because that is very factual part. So I did not cover it here. So other sources you can read from the Lakshmikant itself. Then this blend of rigidity and flexibility. So if you do, as you may know or you may not know, under Article 368 of Indian Constitution, So most parts of the constitution are amendable. So they may get amended. So that is why it is called an organic constitution, or the constitution of India is very organic. Okay. Why organic? Because it is live document and it can be changed by amendments under Article 368. So it is flexible, but sometimes the amendment procedure is little difficult because there is special majority is needed, and also sometimes the special majority along with the ratification of the half of the total states is needed. So it gets a little difficult or lengthy process. Also, some of the parts of constitution cannot be amended, that are called as the basic structure. We will be reading about the basic structure doctrine in separate chapter. But for here, just you need to know some part can be amended easily by simple majority. That's why it is flexible. Some parts can be amended with special majority or special majority and ratification of the state. That's why it can be called rigid. And some of the parts known as the basic structure of Indian Constitution cannot be amended. And all these are under the judicial review, that is judiciary can intervene if any constitution amendment is unconstitutional according to them, right? So next is federal system with unitary bias. So India is a federal unit where there are union and states, but a lot of features are there which are having unitary bias. That means the union is having more power. For example, the list under Article 246 Schedule 7 of Indian Constitution. So there are list, union list, state list, and the concurrent list. So the union list contains more topics and also the important topics. Then other features like Article 356. Okay. Then single election commission for both central and state elections. Okay. And CAG, etc. Right. CBI, etc. These are the features which makes Indian Constitution a little unitary, but mostly it is a federal. So Indian Constitution is called as a quasi-federal constitution, not a fully federal, not a unitary government, but a quasi-federal situation. Then parliamentary form of government, that you must know that we have parliamentary form of government where executives come from the legislature itself. So we will be discussing about the executives and legislature in a lot of detail. This is again very important part in Indian polity. Next, synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. So in the British Parliament, because the constitution is unwritten, so parliament is sovereign, right? And in India, in American constitution, judiciary is supreme. But in India, there is a synthesis, a mix of both, because parliament can bring laws, but these laws can still be challenged in Supreme Court. And whatever the verdict comes from the Supreme Court, Parliament can still try and amend that verdict, or bring amendment to counter that verdict. That means no one is supreme, neither Parliament nor Supreme Court or judiciary, but here the supremacy is of the Constitution. So in India, Constitution is supreme. That is why there is a synthesis between parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. That's what it means. And there are also some conflicts regarding because of this, but it is a better option to have both, intermix of both. Then next part is integrated and independent judiciary. So integrated judiciary is also part of a unitary bias. What is the meaning of integrated judiciary? Both, there is a hierarchy. High Court, Supreme Court, and lower courts. So this means Supreme Court is over and above all these courts. For example, in USA, the state Supreme Court is different from the federal court, and it is not attached. So there is no integration between these judiciaries. But in India, all the judiciaries are integrated, but the major feature is independence. Judicial independence is the key, and it is the key for any constitution. Okay, moving ahead. Next is the fundamental rights. As I have explained, the fundamental rights have been taken from US Constitution, American Constitution, and it is very important for giving political democracy And these rights are fundamental to the rights life. Okay. And because they are in the constitution and they are enforceable by the court, that is, if there is a violation, then Article 32, under Article 32, there are 5 writs available with the Supreme Court and High Court. Sorry, Supreme Court, High Court under 226, Article under 226 has these writs which they can invoke in case of violation of the fundamental rights. These are right to equality, Article 14 to 18, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational right, and right to constitutional right. These are the 6 rights that we have. And some of these can also be suspended during national emergency, except rights guaranteed under Article 20 and 21. We will be talking about all these in the separate chapter, fundamental rights. This is one of the most important chapters, fundamental rights, and there is at least one question everywhere for the prelims and in all the state PCS, along with mains also. It is very important. Moving ahead, directive principle of state policy. As I already told you, it is taken from the Irish Constitution. And as we see, fundamental rights are for political democracy. These are important for socio-economic democracy, that is society and economy, but these are not kept enforceable legally. On their violation, court cannot, pass orders. There are few reasons, mostly because when India got independence, so there were no social and economic base, or the economic resources were not good enough to make them legally enforceable. But we will be talking about this again. There is a separate chapter, very important chapter again for DPSP. Then fundamental duties. These were inserted by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976, Article 51A. Right now, there are 11 fundamental duties in Indian Constitution, because they are again not justiciable, not legally enforceable, but they are as a reminders to Indian citizen that rights and duties go hand in hand. Okay, so that means if you are having rights, so you need to follow some duties. Someone's right is other person's duty, right? So that is why fundamental duties are there. Then India is a secular state. Secular means the state, there is no official religion of the state. And in Indian secularism, we will be talking about it again in the preamble chapter, but in Indian secularism, state maintains equal cohesion, not the distance, with all the religions. That means no favor to a particular religion. All the religions are equal in the eyes of the state, and there is no official religion. Dissociation of state from the religion. This word secular was added in Indian preamble through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. We will be studying about the amendments also. And equal respect to all religions. That is what it means, secularism in India. Then moving ahead, universal adult franchise. That means Article 326 guarantees this constitutional right to every person who is above 18 years without any discrimination of caste, race, religion, sex, illiteracy, wealth, etc., the right to vote. So this is a constitutional right. Constitution has provided it to every citizen who is more than 18 years. Earlier, before 1988, it was 21 years. By 61st Constitutional Amendment Act in 1988, the age for voting, legal age for voting, was reduced to 18 years from 21 years. So sometimes it comes that right to vote is a fundamental right. No, it is not a fundamental right. Second, right to vote is guarantees voting rights to all the citizens. No, it does not guarantee rights to all the citizens, but only to those who are above 18 years. Okay, and there are also some exceptions, like someone is in jail or anything, so they are also not, or someone is not of unsound mind and not of sound mind or integrity, then they are also not able to vote. So it is not a fundamental right, and it is not a guaranteed right to every citizen. Then single citizenship, as we have studied, as we have talked, that Indian constitution is a single constitution for states and union. So there is only single citizenship, that is irrespective of any state anyone is born, they will be called as citizen of India and not a citizen of a particular state. There is a term domicile, that is different from citizenship. Okay. So domicile can be of a state. For example, anyone having a state from Himachal, Haryana, Punjab, South, like Tamil Nadu or anywhere. So they can be domicile of that particular state, but they will be citizen of India. So single citizenship. Then very important feature, there are independent bodies known as constitutional bodies, like our Election Commission under Article 324, CAG under Article 148 to 151, UPSC under Article 315. These are independent bodies. These are constitutional bodies, and we will be studying them under constitutional bodies. Very important part again, there is at least one question or maybe two questions from constitutional, non-constitutional bodies. The next feature is the emergency provisions. In India, you must have known about three types of emergency can be there. National emergency under Article 352, state emergency also known as President Rule under Article 356, and financial emergency under Article 360. So this is again a very unique feature, specifically the state emergency and the financial emergency. So we will be talking about this in separate chapter named emergency provisions. So up to now we have read like 15 provisions, and there is separate chapter for each of these provisions. So this much important, we can say these 15 provisions or these provisions are. So next provision is the 3-tier of government. So in the initial constitution, that is on 26th January 1950, there was 2-tier of government, that is the union level and the state level. Then in 1992, 2 amendments, 73rd and 74th amendment came. 73rd amendment added part 9 and schedule 11, that is Panchayati Raj institutions, and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act brought this part 9A, schedule 12, and brought urban local bodies. So these are the 3rd tier of the government at the lowest level, that is the, we can call them local self-government. So local self-government in the rural area are called PRIs, Panchayati Raj institution, and under the urban areas called as urban local bodies. Again, they are very important part. They are brought into Indian Constitution through 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1992, and we will be having a separate chapter on that. Then cooperative societies. In India, the cooperative societies are also constitutional bodies. Okay, they were given constitutional status through 97th Constitutional Amendment Act in 2011. As we have read 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, we have also talked about 61st Constitutional Amendment Act. We have talked about 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Similarly, we will be talking about a lot of Constitutional Amendment Act, and these acts are important. Only few of them are important, so we will be talking about them. So these cooperative societies also included in Article 19, right to form cooperative societies. A new directive principle of state policy DPSP was added under Article 43B, and totally a part 9B. As we have studied part 9, PRIs, part 9A, ULBs, part 9B for cooperative societies. These articles are included by 97th Constitution. So these were the salient features of Indian Constitution. I will just revise them for you. First is the lengthiest and written constitution in the world. There were some factors why. Then drawn from various sources, we have talked about it: Government of India Act 1935, American and Irish Constitution, British Constitution, and a lot of small feature from some German, some Russian, that is USSR, something from French Revolution, something we have taken from a lot of constitution. So we can look at the table. Then it is rigidity and flexibility, both rigid and flexible, as we have talked about Article 368. Then it is a federal system having a unitary bias. I have given you a few examples where the unitary bias is there. Then parliamentary form of government, both integration of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. Then integrated and independent judiciary. I have explained both of these. Fundamental rights are there. We will be talking about them in detail in a separate chapter. Directive principle of state policy, Article 36 to 51. And fundamental duties, we have talked about 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act and 51A article. And a secular state, and then adult franchise, universal adult franchise means everyone above age of 18 is eligible to vote. Single citizenship, independent bodies we have talked about, and emergency provisions, Article 352, 56 and 360. Then ULBs and PRIs, three-tier government, that is the union level, state level, and local level. Local self-government, element of local self-government was added through 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1992, and the cooperative societies. So these were the basic salient features, and we'll be talking about each of these features in length in separate chapters and separate videos. So there are some criticism also. As I told you, it is a criticism was that borrowed constitution. Definitely at that time, a lot of constitution were already in place, and it was a good thing to do, that if your country can borrow from the international best practices, and it was an Indianized constitution. Then a carbon copy of 1935 Act. As I told you, most of the features were taken from this act. So it can be said that it was a carbon copy. For criticism purpose, not an issue, but yeah, a lot of changes were there. Some people may call it un-Indian or anti-Indian. That means it is just a foreign constitution, not suited for Indian conditions. It may be correct to some extent, but the Article 368, that is the amendment provision, was good, because if there is something that did not suit the Indian conditions, then so that can be amended. And so far, 104 amendments are in place already. So that means, yes, it is amendable. That is perfectly fine. Then an un-Gandhian constitution, some may say that, okay, whatever the Gandhian principles are there, they are not incorporated in the constitution. Although Gandhian principles have been added in DPSPs, but as I told you, those principles are not justiciable. They cannot be legally enforceable, but still. An elephantine size, 395 articles, 22 parts, and 8 schedules. So it was a very big constitution. So that is again a criticism. But as we studied the 4 factors, that is geography, history, then a single constitution for his state, and a lot of legal luminaries into the Constituent Assembly. That is why the size is huge, and it is again a good thing because there is a lot of clarification. Then also called as a paradise of lawyers. As we have talked, a lot of members in the Constituent Assembly were the lawyers. So this was the criticism. This was all about today's video. Let's look at a few questions. Which of the following schedules in the Indian Constitution of India, incorporate salaries and allowances of members of Parliament, Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and Rajya Sabha, Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha as one of the items. So we haven't talked about it. So we'll be talking about the schedules in separate chapter. If you know, you can write the answer in the comment box below. Next is, which of the following is not a salient feature of Indian Constitution? So this we have done. Written constitution and supremacy of the constitution, quasi-federal structure, committed judiciary, distribution of power. So you can eliminate an answer, and please answer on the comment box below. So this was all about today's class. In the next class, we will be going with the 4th chapter of the book. If you have any queries, you can email me at info@gyanmimamsa.com. And I will be sharing the Telegram channel link and other social media links in the description box below. Thank you. All the very best.